Action.
Hi, this is phase 2, my final for early lit, SEDN 658. I'm just following up with my administration of the IRI with the student Bryce. In terms of the results from my assessment, my recommendations for further work: Bryce should continue working on identifying the main idea and making inferences using the how do you know strategy, because he has the difficulty finding the main idea or even just kind of comprehending the main idea. The strategy I was being able to infer: Bryce should be able to focus on skills mentioned in the spring making period progress reports. And after I had administered the IRI, the review provided documents from the school and the parental contact. I discovered that my student had mastered his phonemic awareness skills, which is really good, and his phonics and his fluency, but he still struggled in the area of his comprehension. He was a second grade student comprehending on a first grade level. And to remediate his comprehension, we focused on main idea and sequence of text. I had researched various techniques and used evidence-based material to conduct my intervention sessions. To basically keenly identify Bryce's area of strength and weakness, I administered the Burns and Rowe Inventory Development and Intervention Plan that fosters academic reading achievement. To begin with, I started with a graded word list. Bryce's frustration level has started at grade 5. His fluency read at his graded word list was 1 through 4. I then administered the reading passage corresponding to his instruction level indicated from the grade level word list. Results from the reading the passages and following the word recognition was 99%. He had a few miscues that were immediately self-corrected. He pronounced the word demolition as demolition, which is kind of common for his age. He was able to read 131 words in 90 seconds, leaving his at a fluency rate of about 90 words per minute. In the area of comprehension, he scored 60%. Based on the assessment results and teacher comments, I decided to create an intervention plan that would provide student with support around comprehending a text. After extensive research on various reading interventions, I selected to use this intervention program that I had created for him. I did the RTI compilation menu manual by Sherry Dobbs. I don't know if you're familiar with her work. I chose this intervention manual because the author developed and designed the manual using the strongest 5 recommendations cited in the report: assisting students struggling with reading, response to intervention, and multi-tier intervention for reading primary grades. It's a practice guide. The report can be found at ies.ed.gov. The Institute of Education Sciences, IES, uses their platform to publish education guides that inform educators with knowledge and evidence of challenges faced by single intervention programs, and the authors use recommendations by a search of previously written publications to ensure citations are up to date. Practice guides fall under the same rigorous scrutiny, external peer reviews by the same office, and that is responsible for sole review of other IES publications. The primary objective of the practice guides is to ensure specific and coherent evidence-based recommendations are available for educators addressing the needs of struggling students, which in this case would be Bryce. Let's see. Moderate refers to evidence that has strong, casual conclusions but cannot be generalized with assurance. Low refers to expert opinions based on others' research and theories. And strong, well, as I already said, it refers to the consistent and generalizing evidence in which intervention programs yields a better outcome. Sherry Dobbs uses recommendation with strong ratings to develop intervention manuals. Her manual focuses on Tier 3 interventions, their recommendations, provided intensive systematic instruction on upon to 3 foundational reading skills in small groups to students who score below the benchmark on universal screenings to develop this manual. Dobbs' reliance on recommendations from the extremely credible IES guides makes this tool very reliable to be used as a method for intervening on the behalf of the student. I will provide this service in a group of 3 peers, which would be just him, Bryce, and 2 other students, and they'll all be struggling in the same area. Instructions will be provided in 45-minute sessions, 5 periods a week. Based on evidence from early reading intervention studies, the What Works Clearinghouse recommended that Tier 2 interventions be provided 3 to 5 times per week for 20 to 40 minutes for a reasonable amount of time, which would provide more intensive daily Tier 3 intervention. To begin with, I will administer a baseline comprehension assessment, which will be the pretest. In conclusion, this case study allowed me to understand that the mastery of certain components of reading doesn't guarantee overall achievement. Students need to be able to master all elements before reading achievement is achieved. According to research, skilled readers integrate what they learn with prior knowledge and knowledgeable and competent in phonemic awareness, phonics, and word study. Also, reading fluency, syntax, vocabulary, and comprehension. The National Institute of Child Health and Human Development has stated just because a student is reading fluently, it doesn't guarantee to understand the material, which is very true. I also gained an understanding of how a student's attitude as well as environment conditions can affect the acquisition of material being presented. On a few occasions, the focus of Bryce, it was a little difficult to administer the IRI, only because he wasn't in the best of moods, and if the student is not focused and not really willing to work because he's not really there mentally and physically, the results are going to be off. So, okay, a couple times when I tried to administer my assessment, on a planned day, I would say, a scheduled day, I had to postpone it for another time because, he just wasn't really feeling it or wasn't in a good mood that day. Here I have a couple of the lessons that I did with Bryce. Lesson 1 was the main topic of different paragraphs. And he basically had to read a passage, and on the line he had to put what the main topic was of each small passage that we read together. For lesson 2, we had to do the main idea with supporting details. And here we used this graphic organizer, which I chose because it helped Bryce basically with his organization skills, because he was a little all over the place. And here's a story that we were reading, a little about ants. And that went along with the second lesson. And here we have lesson 3, which was similar to the first lesson. And this story was A Brush with History. And he had to determine the topic of each paragraph. So basically, throughout the lessons, what I kept consistent was identifying the main idea and what the topic of either specific paragraphs that I selected for him to read, or just the short story as a whole. That way I can gain a better understanding of his reading comprehension and what he took away from the story. I also have here for lesson 4 and lesson 5, where he had to break down the story, and he had to be able to identify the main characters, the setting, the problem of the story, and the solution. And he had a lot of difficulty. The characters were easy for him. The setting, he had a really difficult time grasping the idea of what a setting is, and that in some stories there could be more than one setting, and his solution wasn't clearly explained. And I ended my assessment with how to retell a story, which was after he read it. I then removed the story, and he had to be able to identify and label same thing, characters, the setting, the problem, the solution, and he did a little bit better. However, there is still work. There's still room for improvement, and that's pretty much it. And here's my administration of my IRI and my interventions for Bryce White, trying to help him improve his reading comprehension.